The book is called Running to Extremes. Lisa Tamati has, written a book on running to extremes. And I've got to ask you the question that probably a million people have asked you first, Lisa. Why?
Why? That's always the classic question, isn't it?
Isn't it? It just amazes me that you do these things.
Oh, look, it's something that I suppose is an instinctual thing for me. I like to push the limits and sort of find out what sort of things I'm made of, and have adventures. Basically, that's my driving passion. And yeah, there are moments when you're thinking, God, what am I doing here, and how did I get here, and what on earth am I up to? But it's at the end of the day, it's great experiences and life-changing experiences that you have. So
when did ultra marathon running, or when did getting into athletics start for you?
Well, yeah, real sporty kid. Grew up with a name Tamati as well. Sort of had to be really sporty, didn't you? You didn't really have a choice. So grew up doing gymnastics and surfing and that sort of thing, and then later on got into cycled around many countries. The old bike trips with all the packs on, and cycled through many countries and did a lot of tramping and mountain climbing and that sort of stuff, and really just was into being in the outdoors and doing anything I could that was outside, and being a bit of a free spirit, travelling the world. Then I did a crossing of the Libyan desert back in 1997, and that sort of was a life-changing experience for me, and ended up doing a 250k across there in a military barred zone where you weren't allowed to be, and crazy what we did. It was 4 of us, and that sort of took me 2 years to recover from that physically. I sort of absolutely annihilated myself and thought, I've got to rethink this now. And I heard about these races in ultramarathons in deserts, and we did one in Morocco called the Marathon des Sables, and that was sort of the beginning of the end, really, because then it was in a more controlled environment. You sort of had positive people around you, and it was just an incredible experience, that first one.
So how does your body hold up when you do these amazing events?
Yeah, well, hey, I'm 44 now, and, I don't act my age, and I don't intend on giving up anytime soon. I have my moments where you wake up in the morning, you're a bit stiff and creaky, but I think that's pretty much par for the course at my age. Look, I think, you don't lose your endurance as you get older. You lose your speed a little bit, but you don't lose, I never had that to begin with, so it doesn't really matter. And you get more experience, and you start to learn how your body operates, and you sort of work in with that. And the main thing is the top 3 inches, it's sort of bandied about, but it really is the key to ultramarathon running. I'm not a talented runner per se, just very, very stubborn, and just keep putting one foot in front of the other. And sometimes it's a walk, and sometimes it's a crawl, and as long as you're moving forward, you sort of, you're doing the right thing and keeping moving. Because
there must be times when you're doing those events, whether it's running through Death Valley or whatever it is, that those top 3 inches you're fighting against them. Yeah. You're saying to yourself, I'm going to give up. How do you overcome that?
Yeah, well, basically, after 50 kilometres, everybody on the planet is exhausted. You're stuffed. So from there on in, it's a matter of how you manage to keep moving forward. And you have, for me, it's like you have this cosmic battle going on behind your head. You've got this devil and this angel, who's sort of an analogy that sort of, people can relate to, where you've got this devil saying, you can't do this, give up, what are you doing this for, no one's going to say anything, and you've tried your best and all this, and then you've got your other side going, no, you can do it, and I believe in you, and keep going and don't give up. And you really, to get through that, you've got to have had a good talk with yourself before you go into these events and say, hey, now what am I prepared to go through to get to the finish line? And if you don't have that conversation with yourself heading into events, you're quite likely to not finish, and that's happened before too.
Highs and lows in your career. Let's look at the high. What's probably been the highlight of your career so far?
Pretty hard one, because there's been a couple of great races. Death Valley, of course, I did that twice, and that was fantastic, especially that first time, And
that seems bizarre, someone saying running through Death Valley was fantastic.
It was just an amazing experience, top crew. It's a race with a whole lot of history, and just to be a part of that, it's like the world champs for us, it's like the equivalent of Ironman's Hawaii sort of thing. So, a big deal for me to go there. But probably last year I did something that for me was completely outside the comfort zone, which was running the High, which is a 222k race over the 2 highest passes in the world, up in Ladakh in the Himalayas. And that, for me, being an asthmatic, going up to 5,500 metres twice, in a non-stop race was pushing the limits, because I'm not good in the mountains, I'm not good in hills, I've got a small lung capacity, and so that was a scary thing for me to have a go at. But all I knew was that no woman had done it, so I wanted to have a crack and be the first.
And you did it?
I did it. I did
Well
it
done.
53 hours and 5 minutes. It was the slowest 222 I've ever run or walked. Had lots of asthma attacks and things like that happening, and I ended up being the second woman over the line, so I was pretty happy with that behind the world champ Sharon Gator. So yeah.
Competing in those events, is there big prize money up for grabs? Is it worthwhile?
Oh, absolutely nothing, mate. No, there's not a cent. It costs a fortune to get to these events. It's not a commercially, viable sport in that sense, So I have to search for sponsors, people who and brands that want to hang their name pretty much on something that's inspirational and give their clients or their staff an inspirational story to hang their hat on and promote their products. North Face is one of my big sponsors, and thanks to them for all their support. It's and there's been plenty of others along the way that have helped in specific projects, but it's pretty hard out there because of the recession. One of my projects this year just tipped over. We spent 10 months working on getting to the Antarctic. With a girlfriend of mine from the States. We were going to do a record attempt down there, 100 miler, but that's had to be postponed till next December. Wow. Because our funding fell over. It's a huge expense to get to the Antarctic, but we just won't give up. It's one thing you learn from ultramarathon.
So you're going to run in the Antarctic?
Yes, the Antarctic next year, do a 100 miler. Well, I've done the hottest, highest, and the hardest. So the next logical one is to have a crack at doing the coldest. And
what about for running shoes for that? I mean, what sort of things do you put on your feet?
You have to have these baffin boots type things, sort of insulated boots that I've been sort of getting coached by a few guys who have run down there. Pat Farmer being one. And James Costrision, who's just done 2,000 odd Ks down there pulling a sled. So those guys are sort of helping me out with all the technical side of it.
I believe you've got a run planned for the Himalayas as well.
Yes. A friend of mine, Mike Alsop, who's done Mount Everest before, and he's an airline pilot. And Mike and I are going to try and do the highest marathon world record attempt next year in October. So we'll be up on Everest doing. Just doing a marathon and trying to do it at the highest place we can. But not at the top.
You're not going to run up the mountain?
No, not running up the mountain.
Do you have a special diet that you followed on a daily basis?
A lot of chocolate.
Really? You wouldn't know by looking at you. You run it off.
Oh, look, I try to eat healthy. I eat a lot of Asian food, a lot of vegetables, a lot of fruit, that sort of thing. But I don't have a strict diet. I'm just, not that disciplined to be able to keep a completely good diet. I'm a bit sugar addicted. Would like to be free of that addiction, but hey, you can't have everything in life.
Do you train on a daily basis? Do you go for runs?
Yeah.
And what's your training regime?
It's been changing in the last couple of years. I've had a few injury problems, and I was doing a lot of mileage, sort of around the 120 to 170 k's a week, but I've actually cut that back in the last year and doing more quality training as opposed to a lot of junk miles, I call them. Not doing, because I used to do a marathon pretty much every Saturday and a follow-up 30k on the Sunday, and then during the week when you're working sort of 10 to 15 k's a day. But I've doing more speed work, and it's a bit shorter nowadays.
Fantastic, Lisa. You're an inspiration. The book is great, Running to Extremes. Thanks for coming to see us.
Thank you very, very much for having me.